I have to admit, I was shocked. My familiarity with Christian Walker goes back to his appearances on Fox News. So where he, is being heralded as a young conservative voice, where his sexuality is an asset, right? Because it proves to some voters that Republicans and conservatives, do have a certain measure of open-mindedness. And I'm used to hearing him say or use the same talking points as his father. And so to hear him lash out in this way was actually really shocking. And I have to admit, when I don't follow Christian Walker on Twitter, I was surprised that his account wasn't verified. So my initial reaction was, is this real? It looked like him. I was actually really shocked that he had come out so vociferously kind of criticizing his father, and that he had reached this breaking point where he felt that he had to publicly break from his father. He's not the only relative of a candidate who's ever come out and publicly criticized. The candidate, Paul Gosar's siblings, most of them turned against him and put out an ad saying, "Don't vote for our brother." So we have certainly seen these types of rifts before. A rift in and of itself does not necessarily, mean that the candidate themselves, is doomed from being able to win. But I think that this is a terrible look. And one of the things that I'm curious about is whether or not this message goes viral in conservative communities, right? So young people are going to see this. Democrats are going to see this. Is this going to get any airtime on Fox News? Are people going to discount it coming from Christian Walker because he's openly gay, right? I think that all of these questions are there. So I want to see exactly sort of what the virality trends look like before I make any judgment. But I have to say, my first reaction was, one, I'm shocked. And then two, am I sure that this is real? There are, a couple of things. Partisanship matters, and calcified hyper-partisanship, I think, matters here. There are people who are going to make excuses for Herschel Walker's inconsistencies, and they're still going to vote for him because he represents their party, and they're going to be loyal to their party. And they're going to figure out a way to reconcile the contradictions that they see in Herschel Walker's behavior, as they have before, with their vote choice. The reason this is damaging is that Walker was likely going to make an issue of the fact that Raphael Warnock is a minister, a Christian minister who supports abortion rights, and he views that as inherently contradictory. And that's still going to resonate for some pro-life evangelical voters. But this makes it a lot harder for Walker to levy this type of critique or attack on Warnock. And so we may not hear him even bring this up, in a debate, for instance, or in future ads, because it just opens up the possibility for Warnock to counter. And I expect that Warnock is going to go on the offensive with this, type of information, or if he doesn't, then one of the super PACs supporting him will. As for how this is going to affect the general election, I think most people have made their mind up already, and the polling data bears this out. And there isn't anything that we're hearing about Herschel Walker that is really going to convince Democrats or Republicans who have already made up their mind that they should change their vote. But this is likely going to be the closest race that we witness in the state this year. And the margins of people who are undecided, independent voters, moderate Republicans who don't like the direction of the Republican Party, but are still remain loyal to the party. This is the type of information that may make them even more insecure in their voting choice and might make them pliable or persuadable. You're probably not going to convince a Republican to vote Democratic, but this may be the type of information that convinces a Republican to skip the Senate race and to vote for the rest of the tickets in the race. So this isn't good information. This is not something that a candidate would want to have happen. So first of all, we have to think about this in terms of scandal. There is political science evidence done by people at the University of Michigan that shows that Black candidates don't weather scandal in the same way that their white counterparts do. So this has the potential to be more damaging for Walker than, say, it was for Donald Trump. That said, I expect that most Republicans are still going to be loyal, and I expect Herschel Walker to get at least 45% of the vote, just on the basis of partisanship. But I mean, fundamentally, right, this issue of Walker's character and his overall fitness for office has been his Achilles heel throughout the campaign. What I think the Walker campaign wanted to do was to hope to get past this and to try to make it all ancient history. And what we found out in the last couple of weeks, whether we're talking about sort of recent allegations of violent and erratic behavior, or whether we're now talking about the revelation of an abortion and the repudiation by the one son that he always acknowledged, the one son who in his own way is well known in conservative media circles, I think is not something that the campaign would have wanted to have happen at this particular juncture.